I love it.
Tracie was just like, don't curse.
Oh,
Whatever you do.
whatever you do, you cheeky monkey. We are about to kick off with the fabulous William Murray. William, I am so grateful to also say and admit that I had the privilege of being in your company for 3 months at Ballymaloe Cookery School. When was that?
2013, I'm going to say.
2013.
I think it's 2013 anyway.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We had good times.
More than 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look how far you've come. We've got 3 beautiful recipes today from your cookbook.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give the audience a bit of information about you.
Cool.
So, William Murray is an artist and food lover.
That's it.
In that order.
In that order, yeah.
An upbringing centred on foraging, cooking, baking and fishing, inspired in County Cork, inspired him to pursue his interest in food.
Yeah.
After completing a degree in fine art in Limerick College of Art and Design, William went on to study cooking at the world-renowned, as we all know, Ballymaloe Cookery School. Since completing his studies in both cooking and art, William pursued these dual interests in every way possible and started his food business,
None of them well, no, I'm joking.
What?
None of them well.
Take it back. Food business Carabini with his partner in life, James, back in 2015.
Yeah.
William specialised in creating delicious recipes, which you're going to demonstrate today, and also celebrating our wonderful Irish food heritage. And he adores writing about food. In his artistic career, William has exhibited all over Ireland, and he keeps a busy studio going near Smithfield in Dublin, maintaining a successful business selling his drawings, paintings and prints.
Slightly out of date now because we've moved to Kilkenny. But I luckily the house we bought in Kilkenny has a little studio annex, so I've yet to set it up yet, but
You're moving studios.
Moved, yeah, we were in Dublin for 10 years and we never had a garden, never had space to sort of grow things. Over lockdown we tried to grow things on our sort of, the roof over our bathroom, which was not fit for even standing on, and our landlord got wind and like hoofed us out of it, so that was like the signal for us to like, we are ready for and we couldn't afford to buy anywhere with a garden in Dublin, so we ended up moving to Kilkenny. So we're there 2 weeks now. So we're living over near Graignamanagh on the River Barrow, and it's absolutely beautiful. If anyone knows that part of the world, it's stunning. I was a bit scared about being inland because I'm from Carabini, I'm from the harbour, and I've moved to Dublin, which is kind of on the coast. And so being inland, I kind of felt like I was going to suffocate. But actually, with the river and the mountains and everything, it's the fresh air. It's lovely. So we're started planting things and growing things. So we're all ready to become full-time boggers. And, but James is stage momming me there at the back. He's like Kris Jenner in the back. And so the two of us are loving our lives down in. We were actually up in Dublin there recently, and both of us were like, Jesus, very busy in Dublin. I don't know about this now at all. Out 2 weeks. So anyway, the first recipe I'm going to do is seeded Dillisk loaf. So Dillisk or dulse is a seaweed that can be found all over the coast of Ireland. It's the sort of purpley one. It's really smoky, earthy. Full of iodine, I'm sure, and kind of got that umami flavor. And it's not fishy at all. It's kind of, I think of all the seaweeds, it's the least sort of the sea one. It's very earthy. And it's got that real rich umami, and especially in this bread, because I don't soak it before I put it in the bread mix. I usually try and get a scissors and like snip it.
You looking for one?
Oh yeah, if you had a scissors. I'll be constantly reminding Tracie of things that I forgot to ask her previously, and she'll be looking at me. But yeah, so I snip it in dry, and that way it sort of like doesn't completely become soggy in the bread mix, and I put a little bit on top as well. Perfect. So this is the Dillisk seaweed. So beautiful as you can see, it's lovely purple, and it's got a really smoky, kind of rich smell.
Do you need all of this? Could I pass a little bit around?
No, you can have it, absolutely. Yeah. I only need around that much. You don't need a lot of it. It goes a long way, and it's naturally salty. So again, when you're making this bread, you don't need to add as much salt because the seaweed has its own natural saltiness. But I wanted to do this recipe first because I feel like I've watched 10 million different videos of Dorina Allen making soda bread in America, in England, in front of my own eyes, in food demos and stuff. And for me, it's such a Ballymaloe experience watching Darina make soda bread. You know, the kind of claw goes in, there's usually big wooden bangles. It's all about the elbow and, you know, the rigid sort of, and I think it's just a really like beautiful, simple kind of food making experience. So I won't do it as well as Darina does, of course.
It is one of the best techniques when making a non-yeasted bread.
Yeah.
Because it stops you over mixing.
That is it.
And then you get that lightness.
Because you just want it to come together really quickly. This bread is all about speed, and even in the mixing of it. So I have everything, talking about speed, I have everything weighed and laid here. So I'm going to put in 340 grams of wholemeal flour straight into the bowl. And this is your classic dry ingredients, wet ingredients. Make a well, put one into the other.
I'll take all your bits.
Oh, lovely, thank you. And I've got some seeds as well. I think seeds work really well in this bread, any kind of wholemeal bread. So you can be quite generous with the seeds. I like to put 60 grams in of sunflower and pumpkin, which seems quite a lot.
Factor.
Yeah,
and
feel
texture.
good. It's healthy texture,
Yeah,
and adds to the. Again, you don't need to. I think when you're using things like seeds, you don't need to use as much salt. I like really salty things, and I'm always trying to find ways of not using as much actual salt, trying to cheat that, because I do have high blood pressure. Well, I feel like everyone has high blood pressure.
I think you're right. We're told that.
You can, and of course, add a little bit of salt, but you can hold back on what else
do you need
in here? Seaweed, scissors. So yeah, again, you can just make sure the seaweed you're using is clean and it's not got little barnacles on it or dead sea creatures or anything like that. So you can just give your seaweed a quick sift through. Usually they come quite clean anyway. So yeah, you can just start chopping the scissors is the best way to do it because knives tend to because it's quite rubbery, knives tend to slip a little bit on it.
If you were to pick it and then bring it home and dry it, that would be a brilliant thing as well. If you
Absolutely.
Didn't live, because now that you live in my county,
yes,
welcome
Kilkenny.
home.
Yeah.
Because you said there we are not at all near the sea, so we could pick that in advance, bring it home and dry it.
Absolutely.
And
you could head down to, where would you go for the sea now? Waterford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go down to Waterford, get your canoe out. But there's actually courses you can do of seaweed foraging, which are great. There's one down in West
Very
Cork,
impressive.
I know, and you go out in the seaweed, and you go out at low tide, I think, and they show you all the different types of seaweed you can pick, and then you go back and you do like a workshop in making oils and different things with the seaweed, so that's really cool. So wet ingredients, we're going to go in with, so this is kefir, but usually you'd use buttermilk, obviously, but kefir is just as good. You just want to create, we want to create a reaction, so we need 2 teaspoons of bicarb of soda, or bread soda.
You know, I never have ever used kefir in a bread.
Oh, really?
And the minute you said it, my brain went, love that as a tip, really.
Yeah, if you can find, because kefir is actually much easier to find nowadays, funnily enough, with this whole revolution of fermenting and all that kind of stuff. It's actually much easier to find than buttermilk. Sometimes you can't find buttermilk because I guess people use it less and less in nowadays. Just give that a quick, make sure there's no bits and bobs in it. And so kefir is great. It creates the same chemical reaction with the bread soda.
Lovely, and it's lovely and thick as well.
It's a good substitute.
Yeah.
It's all about creating that chemical reaction because you're not using any yeast in this bread. So 300 mils, roughly, of buttermilk. And we're also going to put 2 eggs in this. And this is, compared to your regular kind of Irish soda bread, this is a little bit wet. The mixture looks a little bit wet, which might feel alien to you if you've made soda bread before, but it's actually, it's totally fine. 2 tablespoons of rapeseed oil.
Yeah.
Lovely.
From one of our producers next door.
Yes.
William. Yeah, they have a stall next door, and they're so delighted to see it being put to such good use this weekend.
Yeah, delicious. Ireland's olive oil, I guess.
Yes,
you could say.
the equivalent.
But you can put a little bit of pinch of salt in here as well. And that's basically just your wet ingredients, perfect. So you just give that a quick mix.
And you want to do this, combine those wet ingredients, so that when you do pop them into your dry mix, you're not overworking those eggs.
Exactly, it's all about the speed. Once the two things start reacting, you want to get it mixed and get it into your tin. This is fairly. I mean, you can give your tin a little buttering.
Do you want a paper base?
Yeah, a paper base just to be safe is always good.
There's a great fun to be had when you cook in a shed. I say that knowing that William asked for a loaf tin and I went, we're in a shed. I can give you something from Connor Spacey's cookery box from yesterday.
Yes.
Thanks, Connor.
I just presumed I was coming to Ballymaloe. They had everything.
Such high maintenance.
So, I mean, things have changed around here, honestly. What have you been doing? You're not teaching here anymore, are you?
No, I
just...
have moved back to Kilkenny full-time and catapult around the country from there, which
Amazing.
is lovely. Yeah, so I would
Everyone's
have been a teacher for 10 years.
So yeah, you want to make a well in the center of your dry mix, and then you want to pour it in. Leave a little bit behind just in case, because you don't want it to be too wet. But you want it to be a little bit wetter than maybe what you'd be used to. But just hold a little bit back, and then you go in with your lovely claw. I don't have any wooden bangles on today, a la Dorina. I need the glasses as well, I feel.
Oh, I have glasses.
So you just want to bring it together.
And that's it. You're talking 30, 40 seconds,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as quick as you can.
Yep.
Love it.
I'm going to add a little bit more. And then you're going to get it into, so this goes into a really hot oven. Most soda breads go into a really hot oven, and so you're talking like 210 to 230, depending on people's ovens are different, obviously, but in my oven, I usually put it in a 210, but I've used ovens and I've had to use it at 230 even.
The temperament of an oven.
The temperament of an oven. Everyone's oven is different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
do not trust an oven.
No, do never trust an oven.
Especially one in a shed.
Especially one in a shed. Do we have an oven here?
We do.
I was
it's
just going to throw this in the bin. No, I'm joking.
I
would never be so wasteful.
I had it out here yesterday, and it was so loud we couldn't hear the chef that was on, and so we were shouting, so I had to move it out the back.
So this, I mean, technically this doesn't need a tin. You could put it on it just creates a nice sort of, it gathers it all up into a nice shape. But you don't need, and I know Dorina usually gives it an old slash across the top to let the fairies out, but I am going to bake my fairies in.
Gorge, thank you.
The fairies are not escaping today. And I'm just going to wash my hands. So yeah, what I like to do as well is, if you got any more seeds left over, which I don't because I greedily use them all, but if you've got some seaweed, do I have seaweed left over?
Oh yeah.
Lovely. If you've got some seaweed left over, you can just kind of have it as a garnish on top.
Oh.
And that will become really, almost like if you've ever had kale crisps, it'll become really dehydrated and crispy and salty in the oven, and it'll create a lovely kind of piece on top.
Allow me.
I have one I made earlier, just to show you. If you want to see. So this is your... So the tin I used, it just created a nice uniform shape, but obviously you can have this as a really rustic bread as well. And the top, I made this last night, so it's not as crispy as it was when it came out of the oven, but it's nice and umami flavor on top, nice and crispy. Do I have a bread knife actually? I might cut this open.
I'll grab that for you.
We'll see inside. My lovely assistant.
That's my knife kit from 1998 when I went to college.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
Does it have do you have it engraved?
Don't do the maths. That's rude, okay?
You don't have it engraved?
No.
You weren't worried someone's going to steal your...
Oh, they'd be too afraid, William.
Oh, I'd say so. I'm just going to cut this open just to show everyone inside. So
Gorge.
It's nice, packed with the seaweed, packed with loads of seeds. So perfect, toasted is really good. Spread with some butter. It's a really nice bread. And I'll give you guys some to taste.
I was going to say, are they well behaved enough, William? Do they look as if they could do it?
I feel like we'll do the banana bread now, and then we'll see
Love
if
it.
they're... I'll put this back in here.
Thanking you.
Perfect. Now what am I going?
Tasting for later.
Banana bread. So this banana bread is sort of special to me and James because it was our very first recipe that we ever did, like as a couple, as Currabini. And we used to make it we used to do these markets in the Teeling whiskey distillery in Dublin 8, and we used to live around the corner, and we used to sell this banana bread, and that's pretty much all we sold, and we thought we were great, and people really liked it, and we ended up submitting it onto this television show on RTE called Taste of Success, which was a really interesting experience. It was the first TV kind of thing we'd ever done, and it was, I don't know if it was a journey, and we got all the way to the final, and they brought us up in the middle of the morning, like 3 or 4 a.m. to this little outside Carlow. All our family members, everything, and the prize was 100 grand, so it was like big stakes, and you got your product in little, and of course they took the towel down and it was the other person's thing. And me and James, there's a really funny picture on the internet of me and James's faces when they reveal the other person as the winner, and we look like the least gracious losers in the whole world. Oh. But anyway, this bread is really special to us, and and it's still very popular, and I don't know if our competitor's product is still in Lidl, but I'm sure it's just as nice.
I think we're going to love this more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think she did an Irish, some sort of Irish stew, which was, is that original? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it.
It's I'm
completely over it. I'm not bitter about it. So bananas, these are a little bit ripe, or a little bit unripe. Usually with banana bread, you want to use like really good and ripe bananas. And this is also a recipe that if your bananas are bigger, then these are quite small. If your bananas are bigger or smaller, you could add like another one if they're too small, or you could cut back on one. But really, it actually doesn't matter. The bread will it might need a couple of minutes more in the oven if there's more banana in it. But it's a really easy recipe, and it can't really go wrong. If it starts to brown in the oven too much, just put a bit of tinfoil over it. It'll be fine. Even if it does get a little bit burnt, those bits, usually the white chocolate
covers.
Yeah, and it's delicious and tasty. So you want to mash your banana, and depending on your ripeness of your banana, you don't have to be quite as. These are a little bit, as I said. Banana bread is sort of the purpose of it is for using bananas that you might not want to eat because they've kind of gone a little bit too far in your fruit bowl. So it's a really good way of using up bananas that you might think are a bit too far gone. But anyway, you don't have to mash them terribly vigorously. Just give them a little bit of a mash, and then we can do our dry ingredients now as well. Is this the right one? Cream flour, lovely. Just make sure I get the ingredients right. I should know this off by heart because I've made it 17 million times. But anyway, 175 grams of plain flour or cream flour. You don't need to necessarily. It's quite a rough and ready. Banana breads are always rough and ready, aren't they? You don't need to.
Yeah, they are.
You could sift it if you want.
They're very forgiving.
They are very forgiving. Thank you so much.
Darling.
And what else am I doing? Baking powder, and so this is actually because it's quite a dense, gloopy batter. You need quite a bit of raising agent. So it's got 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a teaspoon bread soda. What have I got here? Bread soda.
They're
a bit
of hard work, aren't they?
They are a bit of hard work.
Yeah.
I said I'd go for the posh one, but it's
makes you work for it.
It does. Too posh. Now. So 2 level teaspoons of your baking powder.
These are great keeper-style loaves, aren't they?
They are.
And toasted. They last forever. That's why I love them.
They last for ages. This isn't necessarily... lots of banana breads are quite... They're healthy enough, but this isn't. So if you're looking for a healthy banana bread, you're looking in the wrong place. Now, I might...
what would you like?
I might scrape that. Do I have another bowl? Actually, just give me that white one there.
Yep.
And I'll scrape this banana into that while I'm doing the rest, because this is a nice bowl to put the sugar and butter in.
you want me to give it a wipe?
I know it's grand.
Yeah.
No. Just put that over there somewhere. So yeah, you've got 150 grams of sugar, and into that you will put 125 grams of Kerrygold butter. Usually I melt it for this.
I didn't measure.
Huh?
Didn't measure, forgot to measure.
Will we
I
eyeball it?
forgot to measure the butter, don't tell
We'll
me.
eyeball it, it's fine. That's, I'm going to say 75.
Professional. Thank you.
I always actually, I'm pretty sure
I
most...
stole from Freddie Bird's demonstration tray. Yeah, yeah.
So very, very posh butter.
Thanks, Freddie Bird.
So usually I would actually melt this and just put it in, but you can beat it in yourself. Is there a wooden spoon or is this? I'll try and beat this in. No, I probably need a wooden spoon, do I?
Just before this, I was over in the grain store introducing the fabulous Scarlett Lily Allen and Tamsin Allen, and they were doing a demonstration for
the next generation.
The next generation.
Yeah.
And we were just saying how we watched them grow up.
Absolutely,
while on
yeah.
the course.
Scarlett was a baby when I was here.
Yeah,
so
she was good
crazy.
looking. 6.
Yeah.
But what they did, which I loved, and obviously they get it from
A new
their
technique,
mother,
is it?
their grandmother, their great-grandmother.
Yeah.
Well, they melted their butter just when you said it,
Yeah.
and they browned the butter for their
Oh,
cookies.
yes.
And just that elevation of
Give
flavour
it a little
again,
bit of a browning,
the
get
nutty.
that toasty, nutty flavour.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip. I'm going to try that now when I get
Me
home.
too.
So I'm just going to, so as I said, I usually put it in melted, but you can beat it in as well. Just get it nice and amalgamated. And to this then we're adding 2 eggs. You can add them in one at a time and just make sure they're... But what the melting does is when you're adding the eggs, it just brings everything together much quicker. And I'm really lazy. So anything that's quick and easy to do is for me. Yeah.
And that saltiness in the butter as well, William, isn't it lovely, that layer of
Yeah.
savouriness to balance
Yeah,
all of the sweet.
I mean, you
Do like that?
could. I generally just use salted butter, but you
Yeah,
could
me
use.
too.
You could use unsalted butter, of course, which is, I guess, you can control the salt levels better because you can add the salt in. But this is, I just know the saltiness of the butter I'm using. I think
Yes.
we're all familiar with how salty or not salty Irish butter is. So I think it's absolutely fine to use salted butter. Just add a little bit less salt to your dry ingredients, and then 1 egg at a time. So this, because the butter isn't melted, this might look a little bit curdled at the start, but you just work it in until it's coming together. And again,
Feel free to hand over if you want me to do a bit of work for you, and have the chats.
Put you to work.
Yeah.
So it's looking at
Payback.
Payback, exactly. I would never have gotten away with that when you were teaching me.
No, not at all.
No. I was, of course, a model student. I never came in late.
I
never
absolutely agree.
never went drinking. I was never down in the... Is the goalpost still open?
Still open. Yeah.
I was never down there. I was
The
only in there
Blackbird,
once.
Ballycotton.
The Blackbird. We were so lazy. We probably went down to the Blackbird like once or twice.
Oh, you're serious? The goalpost was your place to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, just whatever was closest.
And your love for food before that, before the course, what did that look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Kirkbinney, as I said, by the sea, and my mum was a great cook, a great home cook. She would never have called herself like a good cook or anything, but she was. She just had that kind of innate, especially with seasoning, and she knew exactly how to make something like really tasty. You know, that sort of inherent thing she had. And she used to, I guess from watching her, I'm not going to say she taught me because if I tried to interfere, she'd sort of bat me away. But I definitely observed what she was doing. And I used to make my own stuff then from, like, she had lots of cookery books and I used to try my hand at often with a disastrous outcome. But
that free reign in the kitchen.
Yeah,
is quite lovely,
and then my mum and my dad both love growing vegetables. They always grew tomatoes, salad leaves, and we had lots of apple trees, gooseberry bushes, lots of lovely things. And then my neighbours were all into food as well, and making food and foraging, elderflower cordials, and making jams and baking and stuff. So the community that I grew up in, and it was quite an insular community because we were sort of like at the end of a 3.5 mile cul-de-sac. in a peninsula jutting out into Cork Harbour, so we were kind of isolated from the rest of the world, living in our own little bubble.
Sounds idyllic.
It was really idyllic, yeah. We used to go over to Crosshaven to go to the shop there because it was the easiest. So everyone along the road had their own little punt, and so everyone used to go over, and so that was kind of like normal to me.
Fabulous.
I remember saying that to someone in college, and they were like, "What? You go to the shop by boat?" So yeah, it was a really special place. So two little, I always do it by the cap, 2 little caps of vanilla extract. I always use vanilla extract and not the essence, because it's better quality. And then you put your bananas in, sorry. This is actually going less chaotically than my usual food demos. And I think that's because James is, where is James? He's back there somewhere. He's actually probably left, has he? He's supposed to be filming this, but he's fecked off. But usually James is up here with me, and just when me and James are doing a food demo together, it's chaos. We're both bumping into each other. We'll have an argument mid. So this is much better.
Oh, well, I'm here for you anytime.
Thank you. You can oust James from the curb in
James, you're fired.
Yeah. Nowhere to be seen. He was like, "I'm going to make a really good video. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to film the whole." Oh, there he is. You could with the iced coffee that made him late in his hand. There you go.
James, he found another #1, sweetie. He's handed you over easily.
So white chocolate, this is lovely Valrhona white chocolate.
Oh, stunning.
Use a good quality white chocolate for this. Green and blacks is also good. Just something that will hold its shape and it won't just melt into the batter or sort of go grainy. White chocolate can go kind of grainy in the oven.
With heat, yeah.
With heat, yeah. So just chop this roughly. You can have bigger pieces and smaller pieces. It doesn't have to be uniform. So that's looking a bit curdled, as I said, but with the flour in it, it'll come back together again. And then some pecans. With the pecans, I generally, again, you don't have, some of them can be bigger or smaller, so I generally just give them a little bit of a smash. And
great tips today.
Or even do it with your finger. You don't have to fuss and
don't overthink it. Just
don't
have
overthink
fun.
it. Exactly.
Yeah, fun in the
Cooking
kitchen
is
really
fun.
matters.
.ie. That's the.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah. Now. So when I started making this first, I used to just butter and flour the loaf tin. I'm a little bit more cautious now, just because. I think when I started making this, I had a really good oven that I knew very well, and I knew. But then our landlord replaced our oven, and the oven was a bit different, and I found the bread used to stick to it a bit more. So you can just, to err on cautious, you can line your baking tin with baking parchment, but it's not. If you have a good oven, you should be fine, but it's not technically necessary. Sometimes the white chocolate can sort of sink to the bottom a little bit and stick to the bottom. So one on the bottom is always advisable, but along the sides you can kind of it doesn't have to be looking perfect either. You can kind of just go in with a knife or a spatula or what are they called? Palette around the sides and.
Release.
Exactly. So I'm going to add the dry to the wet rather than the wet to the dry, and I'm going to add it in just a couple of stages. Another trick for the white chocolate, actually, which I do sometimes when I'm being extra fancy, is you can coat the white chocolate in a little bit of flour before you put it into the batter, and that will stop it sinking down into the bottom.
Brilliant.
But sometimes I like coming across a big layer of white chocolate
on the base.
Yeah.
Love it. The flexibility around this, anything goes. No
Anything
matter what
goes.
you do, it's going to be great.
Exactly. That is my
friendly.
favorite type of cooking is when you can kind of allow yourself a couple of mistakes or a couple of and recipes where you can, instead of using pecans, you could use walnuts or almonds or some other type of nut, or you could leave them out altogether, or you could use dark chocolate or mixture of chocolates or no chocolate. You can kind of do what you want, and I like those kind of recipes where you can play and make them your own recipes, and I won't sue you, and the person I stole this recipe off won't sue me, and everything's been cooked before, I'm sure.
That's what they say. No such thing as an original thought.
And that's it. So you've got a batter here, which has come together quite nicely, and you just want to tip it in. So the agents within the bread soda and the baking powder, they're going to start to work. So if you left that there for a couple of minutes, you'd notice it would start to kind of puff up a little bit. So you kind of want to get it in as soon as possible. I came here to work. I don't know about Tracy, but I'm joking.
Sweetie! I was coming to tidy down, I promise.
That's okay. So I made one last night. Again, you can use any sort of tin. You can use a round tin, a loaf tin. This is just a kind of flat loaf tin. Again, you can, at the end, I like to put some more pecans on top, a little bit more white chocolate just on the very top, and it'll just give a nice little effect.
Pop it into the oven? Can I bring it out?
Pop into the oven, yeah, go for it, 180, yeah. And
find me a tin. And we'll get that into the oven.
You can just, I like the ends, but I'll eat that
Connor
bit.
could have a second one.
But if I just show you, if you cut quite generous things, you can see there's a nice distribution of your pecans and your white chocolate bits, and it's all nice. I like when there's a bit of a dark crust on it, and because it's quite a wet or kind of a gloopy batter, it needs to sort of be in the oven for around an hour and 15 minutes, just so it's cooked through. So it will start to brown on the outsides and the top, and that's absolutely fine. It's not going to be a uniform kind of golden all the way through kind of cake, like a Madeira cake or anything like that. It's going to have a good little bit of a crust just because it needs that bit more in the oven. And you can't have it too high because it will burn. So it's just kind of playing around with your own oven a bit. I can slice that up in a bit. So we're going to make a butter now, which we're going to use for our...
we have an amazing backroom team, we should say, because nothing is possible. It's not just me and you. We have a whole team behind us, and they can slice that up and send it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think
how many
deserve...
of them are there back there?
Do they deserve...
They do.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, James, do you wanna be my helper? Has he gone again? I can't believe this.
I've got you, William. I've got you.
I actually can't believe this. Honestly.
Banana bread.
And he was originally supposed to do this demo with me. He was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I'll film it. And he's off drinking iced coffee somewhere.
William, would you like some butter on the bread and on the banana bread, the Dillisk bread and the banana bread?
I think I usually don't butter. If I was having a plain banana bread, I would butter it. But this one has kind of got chocolate and stuff in it. So I think it's enough on its own. Yeah. It's more like a cake than it is sort of oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Save the day.
He was out there flirting with Nico Reynolds.
Sorry, my pasta around the loaf.
Sweetie, yes, I guess. So we're going to do butter on the Dillisk bread and banana bread without butter.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh yeah, I was going to make a butter, but she's gone with the butter, so we'll make the pancakes. So these are rye spring onion pancakes. Rye flour, it's lower in gluten. It has gluten, but it's lower in gluten. It's high fiber. You just have to be a bit careful with it because it soaks up quite a lot of liquid. It's quite a fine, sort of powdery flour. Huh?
You need a frying pan.
I need a frying pan.
Yeah.
Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing with my life? Rye flour. So you just go in with, I'm just going to use 100 grams of rye flour. You don't want to use a lot.
Could I get you to get me
And this is a great recipe if you just got like lots of spring onions. People always have like bunches of spring onions in their fridge that they're like, oh, I'm going to put it on salads or whatever. So it's a good one to use if you find yourself with a fridge full of spring onions. So you just want to use around 8 spring onions in here. Just going to give them a quick. I don't know what the technical term for skinning a spring onion. Rubbing them down. I don't know. There's lots of.
It dries out on the outside, and with an onion, the drier the skin, it doesn't matter how much moisture, how much heat, it will never break down and it'll always be really tough.
Yeah.
But those skins that you are taking off, they're absolutely superb in stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, in bases of vegetable stock,
and you can
chicken
have
beef stock.
I always have a Ziploc bag in the freezer of onion skins, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, very clever.
What did I see? Someone made.
They're alive now.
Oh yeah, there they are, revived.
He's feeding them all.
James has finally showed up. But you can blitz onion skins into like a powder as well, and that can be...
Yes.
Yeah.
So dry them out in a low oven on a baking tray.
Yeah.
And then blitz them up once they cool. And you can add it to sea salt.
Sea salt,
and it
yeah.
creates an onion sea salt,
Yeah.
which is stunning.
Absolutely beautiful, and like got just that like really concentrated onion flavor.
Yeah.
You can do the same things with chicken skin. You can make a chicken salt with dried out chicken skin.
Gorge.
Are you going to help me? You're gonna pass around banana bread. Who? No,
No.
sorry. You've been too generous at the start. That's always the way.
Oh,
The people
well
at the
done,
other side
James.
of the room are fuming.
You see all of the bits that William has taken off here. We have, and if it's your first time sitting in this room this weekend, you won't know. And if it's your second or third time, well, it's good information to re-listen to. Outside the door, we have a piece of equipment called MyGug. MyGug is a biodigester, and it's just outside in that corner. And it's this funky-looking black piece of equipment. And what we've been doing since Wednesday, the guys arrived first thing Wednesday morning, and we've been feeding that machine all of our leftover food waste. That machine then is a biodigester, which is turning the food into biogas. And just in the corner inside the room, at that back door, we have a blue square balloon bag that is filled with the biogas that comes from that machine. Now, I'm not finished. That machine, that blue bag, and if you look, fabulous Jolene Cronin is here. We've got a green hose that is attached to that blue bag, which is the biogas, and it's coming up and feeding this hob. And when I say the heat distribution on this hob is outstanding for a gas ring, it's amazing. Everyone this weekend, there was one or two chefs that really needed immense injection of heat.
Oh yeah?
And they couldn't get over it. They're like,
Seriously?
This
So
is
this is powered by biogas?
Biogas.
That's incredible.
All weekend. Sustainable at the core.
And can you buy them?
Yeah. So, we have Kieran down the back, yellow t-shirt, MyGug. That's the gentleman. So you've got, this is the smallest in the domestic range, and it's just superb.
Amazing.
We've had so much fun. So, Kieran, we've got more for the biodigester. More food.
We just bought this like hot bin, it's called, for our compost, and you can
Yes.
put like cooked food and everything into it. We haven't
Nice.
started using it yet, but there's lots of ways of using up
making
your...
a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or get chickens that eat everything.
Are you going to get chickens?
We are going to get chickens.
Yeah, I love that.
James we have crows living in our, I think they're jackdaws, living in our chimney.
Yeah.
And James really wants to make friends with them, because we've got a couple of friends who've made friends with crows in Dublin.
Whoa.
And if you start feeding them at the same time every day, they'll start bringing you gifts.
Yeah.
And there's actually a guy on the internet, and he has trained his crow to find money, and he brings them back around 300 quid a day.
Yeah.
Just stealing it off people.
Stop it.
Yeah.
He lives in New York City.
And he'll never get caught. Like, how could you ever...
The crow.
Yeah, you're on.
The crow, so he lives in Manhattan, and he's trained the crow to fly out the apartment window. Someone is paying for something at a street vendor or parking, and the crow snatches the dollar. And if you look up TikTok Crow New York, and the crow flies in, and he comes home from work to $250, $300. The crow's out all day.
Working.
So I want to do that, but not for stealing money. But I just love the idea of the crow brings you a little gift every day.
Yeah, an employee on the team.
So
just quickly,
that's my
this
life.
is there's lots of this at the moment in markets and stuff. It's just like wet garlic. It's a really fresh kind of garlicky taste, and it's great to use at the moment. So I'm going to use a little bit of this in here. It's not in the recipe, but it's this is another recipe. You can throw different things into it that you want.
That's there for you if you want it. Yeah, bread is in the oven.
So I'm just going to add a little bit of
But
this
bread has
wet
gone out of
garlic,
taste,
and
which
it's
is
got a
nice.
kind of somewhere in between. It's got a fresher, less. What would you say about wet garlic? Not quite. Almost like in between the garlic and a wild garlic kind of flavor, and a little bit oniony as well. So it's a good one to use. So it's the garlic before it's been sort of dried out. And you can use the stalks as well for stocks and different things. It's a great thing to use. So actually, this is a great recipe because you literally just throw everything in, wet, dry, and then you just give it a quick mix together, and it comes together perfectly. You want to have a little bit of baking powder in it.
Did I bring it out?
Come
I
on now,
was too-
Tracy.
Cracking the whip. You're fierce.
You're like
Oh,
my.
I taught you
you're,
well.
You're like my dad. You'd be cooking in the kitchen. My dad would have everything cleaned up, like that you're using before you've even got to use it. It's a nightmare.
You're welcome.
So just some baking powder. It'll make it. It'll just give it a little bit of puffy kind of body, which is quite nice. 2 eggs. So I've already put the rye flour in. I put 8 sliced spring onions, a little bit of that wet garlic, baking powder, 2 eggs, and it all goes into the one bowl, and you mix it together. Ground coriander is another thing we can put in here. Do we have that anymore? If we don't, it's fine.
I didn't even see it. Was it in a brown bag?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Ground coriander.
Ground coriander, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, the best thing to do with coriander is buy coriander seeds, toast them on your pan, and grind them in your pestle and mortar, but, you know, you can use ground coriander as well. It's in a little smaller one. Maybe I didn't bring it. That's okay.
I didn't see it, but
Oh, it's here.
aha.
Sorry, Tracy.
No worries, Pet.
So roughly a teaspoon of ground coriander, just gives it a nice flavour. 75 mils of milk. I've got 100 mils of milk in here, and that's because the rye flour soaks up a lot of liquid, so sometimes you might need a little bit more milk.
Liquid, yeah.
Exactly. Have I missed anything now? Spinach. So spinach, here's one I prepared earlier. You just cook down spinach, 200 grams of spinach, which is actually quite a lot of spinach because spinach is so light, in a pan with just a little splash of water until it's all cooked down and really dense and green. And then you drain it off and you put it in between 2 clean kitchen towels, not fancy kitchen towels now, just ones that you don't care about staining green. And press it as hard as you can, fold it up a bit, press it again.
Wring it.
Wring it,
Yeah.
and it'll get all that liquid out of the spinach. You want to get as much liquid out of the spinach as possible, and then you can put your sort of compressed spinach on a board and chop it up. And that 200 grams of spinach, which is quite a lot, it amounts to that. So that's what you get at the end of it, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it'll add a nice bit of flavour and iron and everything to this dish. This is quite healthy. Not often things I make are healthy, but this is probably about as healthy as it gets.
Sounds delicious so far.
You can beat the eggs before you put it in, but it's not that important. So you just want to get it together. So yeah, I think I will need a little bit more milk,
Yeah.
just to make a little bit more batter.
Do you think that's enough? Or
Yeah,
shall I-
just throw that
Yeah?
in. That'd be perfect.
Fab.
That's perfect. You just want to make it it can be it can be a stiff enough batter, and obviously this is sort of enough for 2 people maybe as a lunch. But you can scale this up really easily. You can make as much of it as you want. You can keep it in the fridge overnight. It'll puff up a little bit with the baking powder, but that's fine. And then we want to heat up our. I'm going to blow something up here now. You better do this.
On it. There's a button underneath, and you turn it on every time you want to use it.
Amazing. So you want a
Fabulous.
sort of medium high heat to start off with. You can lower it down a little bit then. And it's like any pancake. The first one will probably look terrible, and then they'll get better as you make more. And with this, we're doing a butter. So the best, you can do this, you can mash it in a bowl, you can do it in a pestle and mortar even, but the easiest, best way to do it is in a food mixer. There is a bit of lime juice in it, which doesn't naturally want to combine with the butter. So it is actually better to use it, because if you try mashing it, the lime juice will tend to sort of
Fights.
leach out. It fights the oil in the butter, or the fat in the butter. And this is, again, simple, easy to do. Any flavored butters, just the best thing to do is throw everything into a food processor and blitz it. So stalks and all, bit of coriander, doesn't matter about the stalks. You don't even need to really chop it up. A garlic clove, or you can actually, I'll use some of that wet garlic, easiest thing to do. While the pan heats up.
Even the tops, any of those that are quite
Exactly.
with the moisture, so you'd probably have to peel it down a good bit, but they would come in handy there as well, wouldn't they?
They would. You could make a spring onion butter. You could char your spring onions, blitz them into
So
the butter.
good.
That would be absolutely delicious. Charred spring onions are one of, in the summer on a barbecue, and charring your spring onions, it's just the best thing to do.
Do you know, I remember fabulous Rory O'Connell taking the bases of the leeks, so the hairy ends, and I reckon you could do it with these garlic bulbs when they're quite young and still vibrant, washing them well, because obviously the soil is in there, and then toss a little bit of olive oil, sprinkle of salt, and then grill them. Absolutely stunning. So for that zero waste piece, every part, what does Connor Spacey talks about, a vegetable treated like a butcher would treat a carcass.
Nose to tail, that sort of idea,
nose to tail of a vegetable.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So you can put the zest in there as well. I'm just gonna just put the juice in, it's fine as well. Just to give it a bit of zippy sort of, and coriander and lime go so well together. And just give your lime a good roll on your board before you put it in. And chili, I like to use, I'm really obsessed with green chilies at the moment. I remember, was it green chilies and green peppers? I think it was Nigella was like, there's never any excuse to use green pepper.
Yeah.
And I used to always hate green peppers, but now I'm obsessed with them for some reason. I really like them. I don't know why. I think it's that like sort of almost unripe flavor. There's something about it. And it's that the same thing with jalapenos. They've got that particular flavor, and it's like you can't put your finger on it. But anyway, I'm obsessed with that at the moment. So I'm using a green chili. You can use a red chili as well. You can lob the whole thing, seeds and all, if you want. But I am going to just scoop them out because I don't like it too spicy.
So the heat is in the membrane, isn't it?
The heat is in the membrane.
Very deceptive.
So just give it a good scrape out. So you scrape out that membrane and all the seeds, and give it a sort of a token chopping up. You don't need to be too...
The rough chop.
A rough chop. You don't need to be too precise. And again, for extra liminess, you can put the zest in there as well, if you would like. And... which I forgot to put into the mix. I always forget to do something. This is just...
What did you forget?
I'm going to put some chives just for extra onioniness. I'm going to put some chives into that batter as well. Just, not a lot, but just that extra fresh spring. I know it's summer now, but it's kind of that spring-summer transition. And a lot of the summer crop hasn't sort of sprung up yet, so we've still got a lot of spring onions, a lot of chives. All those ingredients are really good to use at the moment. I think wild garlic is still out. I think I saw some the other day.
Just about. The three-cornered is available, but it's hard to come by because
the three-cornered leeks are available.
Yeah, we have to run around the farm trying to find that over the last couple of days. Not so easy.
Not so easy. No. Foraging is fun, though.
Yes.
So we're just going to give that a blitz. Do you want to do that? We'll get you to do something at least.
Thank you. Put me to work.
So as you can see, the liquid in the lime is just a bit thick, so you will have to take the top off, push it down a little bit. You could even just pulse it for a while it comes together. So this is good and hot now. We're just going to turn it down slightly. And then you can just use a spoon or anything. These don't have to be perfect pancakes. You just want sort of almost like drop scones, like dollops of the batter. And they actually cook quite quickly. So they're like fritters, basically, is what they are. If you wanted a better word than pancakes. And we're using our lovely golden rapeseed oil from Donegal. And they're just going to fry again. So the first few will test your pan a little bit. You're just going to kind of have to watch them, make sure they're cooking fine. You can swirl the oil around a little bit to get the sides done a little bit so they're easier to flip. And actually, a lot of like pancake batters and stuff, it can be a nightmare trying to find the right heat to batter sort of ratio, that things aren't burning or the batter is sticking and you're using enough oil. But this is actually one of the easier ones. I think it's something to do with the rye. So you can kind of test one, so that still needs, I'll flip that over again in a minute, but it's a little bit pale, so you want it to a little bit more done than that. Actually, I'll turn it up a little bit, can expedite this process. But just watch them, fry them. You want them golden, crispy. Because of the baking powder, they'll puff up a little bit, so you want to make sure the middles are done. And yeah, with the butter, you just get it in some parchment paper. You can use the parchment paper to sort of either flatten it down into a pat or roll it into a nice round like I've done here. And then you can just slice, get it in the fridge, make it nice and cold, and then you just slice rounds. It's the easiest thing to do with it. And then put one of the rounds on your hot pancakes and let it melt down into it.
Gorgeous. And in the freezer, they're so good. So any of your,
Butters,
if you're ever
yeah.
running in excess of any sort of herb, and rather than wasting it, make a herb butter, label
Yeah.
it, pop it into the freezer, and then you get to rotate as often as you like.
Are you doing me a garnishy, lovely,
Totes.
lovely?
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, yeah. This is great. James never does anything like this.
Yeah. I believe
is
it.
he
Did he
even
even
still here?
show up?
Is he here? Oh, he is. He's on FaceTime to someone.
Online shopping.
Honest to God.
He does have great style. Can I say that? Will
Who,
you hear me?
James?
Yeah.
He'd want to have
Fabulous.
something, wouldn't he?
And so, does
So does that make me, I'm the sort of, the dowdy, talented one?
Well, I don't know that I'd ever put dowdy in a sentence with you. Are you joking? No,
Well, compared
equally
to
as
James,
fabulous.
he's kind of, he's the more, I guess,
Dowdy's unfair, though.
elaborate one.
He is, yeah, elaborate. Tell me, moving to Kilkenny, does that mean it's a quieter life?
Quieter life? Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, we were getting kind of at that stage in Dublin where like I don't necessarily go to like nightclubs or anything like that anymore. I go to the odd concert
Yeah.
and stuff, but like I kind of finished that period of my life.
You lived it
and
well.
I like being in pubs with my friends and stuff, and
Yeah.
I've had friends visit me now. So a friend of mine actually from Kirkbinney. He brought his boat up. He has a little boat and he brings it all around the coast with his. But he had never been on any of the rivers.
Yeah.
So he brought the boat up, launched it, and we went. Someone who owned a barge lent us a lock key.
Oh.
And we went up and down the river,
No.
through the locks, down to St. Mullins. Has anyone
Beautiful,
been to St.
yeah.
Mullins? Absolutely beautiful part of the world. And there's a really nice cafe there in St. Mullins called the Mullican Cafe. It's just gorgeous, and everyone's
Yeah.
fishing, and it's just really peaceful.
Peaceful, and then summer brings people to where you've moved. Summer really brings out the best in people around that area.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many water sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
So
lovely.
yeah, you can take boat tours, you can go canoeing, you can swim in the river, lots of things.
Yeah,
So you wouldn't need to live in the coast.
true. The best of all worlds. Home
That's
to
it.
Kirkbinney, isn't that it when you need it?
Just these are nice and brown and crispy. They kind of look like bhajis, I always
Yeah.
think. And the same, and bhajis would be made sort of in the same. What flour do they use for bhajis? Is it chickpea flour or something?
Annette, what flour do you use for bhajis? Flaurie Cullinan. Teachers, one ex-teacher and one current teacher at the cookery school. Bhajis, what's the recipe?
What flour would you use? Is it
Chickpea
chickpea
flour.
flour?
Graham flour.
Graham flour.
Yeah.
And that's equally as sort of very absorbent like rye flour would be. I just love the. Is that all we're going to make?
Yeah, do you want to make more? Are you
Oh,
going to get the
I
tastings?
might as well.
Are
Oh
you
yeah.
getting to tasting? Oh, you're very
You
generous.
might as
I
well.
love
The
it.
batter's there. James, I feel like I let people down with the only making one spare banana bread.
Another plate. So the book that you wrote
Yeah.
10 years ago, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because these recipes are from that book.
It's from that book, yeah. So that was sort of I guess, a love letter to my neighbourhood, Kirkbinney, my mum.
Yeah.
My mum sadly passed away
Thank you,
in 2020. But there's lots of pictures of her in the book, and she helped me and James like hugely with a lot of recipes. Same with James's mum. It was sort of an ode to like our friends, our neighbours, all the people who had sort of helped us up to that point. So there's a couple of my mum's recipes in it, a couple of James's mum's recipes in it. So it's a really like it was a sort of a group effort.
Yeah.
And then some of my neighbours' recipes made it in there, and it was just a lovely experience.
Bringing people together through food.
Through food.
Yeah.
So I'll have to write another one now. And
are you telling us something live on stage?
any publishers out there?
Yes, there are actually. All weekend.
You know, we'd love to do another cookbook. I mean, I was writing for, I guess, 3 years in the Examiner.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I loved that, but it became a lot. I don't know how Dorina does it. It was 3 recipes a week.
She has a fabulous team, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
there's great support.
I had James. But I was doing 3 recipes a week for 3 years, and it was just like, you couldn't go on holidays or anything. It was just, and I wasn't ever organized enough to have like a bank of recipes.
Yes.
I was always like in the kitchen, experimenting, trying to come up with things in a mad panic. In the moment, doing recipes there and then. So it was a panic, and it just became too much for me in the end, and I sort of let that go.
Yeah.
But I've a whole bank of like 3 years times 3 a week recipes that that are sort of ready to go.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do another book.
Carabini 2.0.
That's it.
Yeah, lovely.
The Kilkenny series.
Yes.
Yeah, we've moved out of the city now, so we're. And it'll be. I'd love to do one where like we use stuff from our polytunnel, and we. It's probably got a bit melty, has it?
Not at all.
Not at all. So yeah, those are my 3 recipes.
And so when you're not in the kitchen, where would we find you?
In the garden. I spend a lot of time in the garden. We just moved down to Kilkenny, so I haven't sort of like figured out what I'm going to do with my life yet. But we have a food truck called the Carabini Food Truck, which we were open for a year up in Dublin, but we sadly got broken into.
Saw that.
Can't have nice things in Dublin. So we got broken into sort of 3 times over a weekend. It was quite bad, and they wrecked the place and damaged a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of heartbreaking, and it kind of it made me sort of lose a bit of. I kind of lost something about Dublin. Like I kind of was like, this is really like tipped me over the edge now.
Yeah.
And I kind of like just the thought of like having to start.
It hurts because it's an extension of you.
Yeah, and we were in
truck.
we were just coming up to Christmas, and we had all these exciting sort of plans for what we were going to do for Christmas, and Dublin's full of people at Christmas, and and then we had employees, we had everything, all that going. So it was just heartbreaking, and it kind of just made me step back a little bit, and I kind of went back to restaurants for a while. I was working in Mamo, in Howth, and Marga in the city centre, and a couple of other restaurants as well. And I kind of like immersing myself in learning about wine and doing lots of other things. I was focusing on other things, but yeah, I kind of ready to get back to the food truck, open it up in Kilkenny somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be in Graignamanagh or in Kilkenny City, or I don't know the exact perfect place for it yet, but definitely we want to do that again and focus on that and use stuff that we've grown ourselves, and
Maximize.
So that's the kind of plan for the future.
Love it.
Yeah.
The fabulous Caitlin Ruth was on this morning, and she has a wonderful food truck, and we were talking about that as well. And she had stepped away from kitchens because she had spent many decades in kitchens, and it felt that the time was right. And interestingly, she decided that her food truck, the announcement of the positioning of her food truck will be given to the public 3 days in advance, because she never wants to repeat the same space twice.
Yeah.
And so she brings in the interest, the intrigue, and then the people love it.
Yeah.
And you order in advance, pay in advance, so you don't have those long queues, so that it's a really fun space for people.
And also, like, I think with food trucks, like, a lot of them, which I definitely didn't want to do, was get stuck on the same sort of, like, being known for something. I never wanted to be sort of like having the same things on the menu all the time. I kind of wanted to, but it's difficult in Dublin because people kind of come up and they expect what you had last week, and they're like, where's that?
We're creatures of habit.
We are creatures of habit. So there's that kind of, I ended up having some kind of staples, and then I'd have kind of new things on each week as well, just to kind of keep it interesting and keep it seasonal as well, which is really important to us. But with food costs and everything, like, it's so hard, especially in Dublin. Holy crap. You're paying a lot of money for ingredients, and and you get kind of given out to by the members of the public for
It's scary.
what your
Do you
what
want
your
'cause you're
pricing
an
things are.
artist.
'Cause
Would you mind doing
this is
pizzazzing?
beautiful. This
Pizzazzing.
is beautiful. I love this.
But it's funny, a number of the chefs in the last 2 days were talking about the increased price of chocolate, which has gone up by 96%.
Oh my God, yeah. Chocolate and olive oil are the two things I've noticed recently.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. So there's going to be many a crisis in that space.
So actually, it's a
along
good
with
time
other
to buy
ingredients.
lovely rapeseed oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, chocolate.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially things like Valrhona and stuff, you want to use good quality ingredients and you don't want to compromise because they will change. Using lesser ingredients will change the outcome of your recipe, and then you're kind of like, but then there's the whole politics around food and how much things should cost and how much things do cost, and I can't afford to be buying
to be fair,
really expensive chocolate all the time to make banana breads with frivolous things like banana bread. So it's a tense and tension-filled moment in food, I think. But I think
right now at the minute, I agree. Yeah. It's not an easy space.
So,
but then it's a delicious
so it's good
space.
to go out there and support. You can give a bit of lime juice, zestiness, nice. You've done a much nicer job than me now. I'm actually, even though James always gives out to me, I'm a terrible photographer. Even though I made photography and video art for years, but I'm bad at apparently taking photos. So my skill. I studied sculpture, so that was my. So working with hands, I would say I'm working with hands is where I'm most comfortable.
Yes, I love it. Give us a run through, William, of what we created, because you've gone through 3 terrific recipes that we'll have up on our website next week.
Lovely.
You probably saw that I stole his recipes, popped them in my pocket, so they'll be on the website next week. What did they taste?
So we have had seeded Dillisk loaf. So that was your seaweed bread. So that's a wholemeal soda bread with some lovely pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, and then that lovely Dillisk seaweed sort of chopped in and mixed through it. And you can have that with butter. You can have it on its own. You could toast. It's really good toasted.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice bread to have in the house. And then we had our banana bread with white chocolate and pecan, so it's kind of a decadent sort of bold banana bread, I guess.
Love it.
A bit. I think
Because we're worth it.
Exactly. Can't have too much healthy stuff. And then our lovely rye spring onion pancakes. And they are perfect for using kind of leftover spring onions. You can use that wet garlic. You could throw other spices, anything you want in there. You could put loads of chili in there if you like really spicy. It's a really easy, simple recipe to use the bones of for other things. And then our lime and chili butter as well. The same goes with that. You can add anything to butter and make butter more elevated, more delicious, and pair it with different things. So they're my 3.5 recipes.
It is with great pleasure to say thank you so much for sharing your time and your recipes.
Thanks. I'm gonna go and try and find wherever James is, and
James, it's over.
It's over.
Fabulous, darling. Thank you so much.